Hey Josh, hey Jess, how's it going?
Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, good to see you. I've not done this kind of thing in a long time, so I have started again with Seed Club.
Let's go. You're starting hot. You're joining at the top. You're peaking right now, man.
No, it's a launch pad into incredible new heights. I think
Right.
that's the game plan here.
Nice. So Shreyas, you're the consumer lead at Monad, and previously were a co-founder of Llama, which was an on-chain governance platform. So yeah, curious to just start this off with kind of getting a better understanding of how Monad thinks about building out its consumer ecosystem. I guess like kind of how you think about consumer generally, what categories you're interested in, and also like, are you more focused on breadth or kind of really going after the few kind of killer success stories?
Yeah, so firstly, a quick TLDR on Monad. It's a layer one, fully EVM compatible blockchain that aims to marry both extreme speed along with decentralization. So you can think of it as, Solana and Ethereum had a baby, you would get something like Monad. And the good thing that attracted me to join the team too is that we care like a lot about both getting the technology right and making a lot of sort of new strides in how you re-architect the EVM, but also building an extremely strong community and getting Monad known to a lot of people. And so the way we think about consumer is maybe there's like three broad, categories. The first is, the real world consumer. And so this is things that would, onboard, millions, hundreds of millions of people to on-chain Rails, but they may not know about it. And so you abstract that away. And so this would involve stablecoins, as ZK-TLS, and the on-chain footprint might be low, but the impact would be pretty high. The second is these more speculative consumer apps, and so these would be things that give a reason for people to bridge to Monad. And so if you think of maybe the cycle of crypto, it started with Bitcoin, then ETH, then ICO tokens, then DeFi, then NFTs. But every sort of class created a new asset that people could speculate on. And so I think the speculative consumer crypto, the attempt is to create this new interesting speculative asset. It need not be an
You need your
innovation.
launch pad. You need your launch pad.
Yeah, it need not be that, right? Like it could be something totally different. But yeah, something that gives, that has like a very heavy on-chain footprint, but gives people like a better reason to bridge. And then the third is kind of these like more viral consumer apps that need not actually have like a large on-chain footprint, but gets people together in one space. And so you know, Farcaster, for example, is potentially one of these. There's apps like 2 Cents. There's a lot of interesting places where people just gather, and they need not do a lot on chain, but it creates like an effect for like the crypto community to be in one place.
So you guys are still in test net, but have also been pretty effective at attracting founders to build within your ecosystem. So what do they want from you guys that you're able to be the best solution for at this stage?
Yeah, I think the besides the core reason, which is you could build on Monad because you could scale with Monad. You could scale to millions of users at extremely low costs and high throughput without having any like performance or infrastructure issues, with having all the like EVM infrastructure that comes with it. So I think that's like maybe the table stakes that gets people interested in Monad. Like you wanted to hear more. I think the additional thing we provide to teams is the ability for you to sort of ride the tailwind of Monad's growth. And so the good thing is we are going to launch mainnet soon. There is a lot of open like greenfield for like apps to like serve our like very rabid like set of community and users. And so uh, one interesting analogy you can think of is when people get into when a new person comes into crypto, like the first thing they think of is like Ripple or Cardano, right? And they they ask you about it, and that's bad because Ripple or Cardano doesn't do anything. But what if you actually had Ripple or Cardano do something valuable, and it's known to like everyone and Uber drivers and everyone else. And I think like in some ways like that is something Monad is going after, where we through building like a very organic community and a set of people that actually like the technology, like will get involved in the ecosystem. You could actually bring distribution to the apps through Monad's reach.
I mean, what do you guys like? How do you approach it? Like, how do you go be the Ripple, or like it feels like an artifact of the times maybe, and kind of came up in these weird niche corners.
Utility
of
is
the
bearish
internet.
to Cardano and Ripple.
Yeah, utility is like these weren't these kind of heavily funded things that are like very intentionally going and building brands. They kind of were much more grassroots. So curious how you approach doing that.
Yeah, I think it's actually much more organically. I think you can't do these things like top down. So you actually need to like one thing we've done a good job is let the community like be. And so we every week there are like interesting things happening with the Monad community where people meet each other. I've attended like events in like Thailand, for example, where like there's hundreds of people like coming from all around the world. At that point, actually, we were pre-testnet too, and people were giving gifts to everyone, to me included. And so there's a way that we've created like connections between each other that that I think like spreads over time, and now it's extending to the ecosystem apps. And so a lot of these app teams have also built their set of like pretty loyal users and community members. And I think this is kind of important for like on-chain apps, because when you have open source technology, like one of the reasons that people stick to your technology is a sense of loyalty and feeling like there's something more than just getting your product. And so I think we basically have built a really solid community, and I think we'll continue to just like let that thrive with the apps maybe taking over instead of just the Monad Foundation.
All right. So what 2025 is the year of too many chains, I think, on the timeline. And I think, we've seen a lot of recently launched chains really struggle to kind of get out of testnet and onto public markets and, sustain growth and interest after that. So I guess the question I have for you is like, what do you guys need to get right to avoid that fate?
Yeah, I think the first thing is actually performance is still very underrated. I think that's like maybe my contrarian take is people you still like overlook that to get the basics right, and basics in codes, because it actually is pretty hard to like have an extremely scalable chain that is low cost, high throughput, that like an app can get to millions of users without performance issues. You have, it's not just the chain, but the RPCs and like all the infra providers have to sort of scale their systems with that. So I think that itself is extremely important. And you saw this a bit with Solana, where they delivered on this, and that was like that was almost good enough. There was, of course, like a lot of other things going on, but I don't think if they didn't deliver on that, they would have had the traction they did. So I think there's scope for like taking that up a notch, especially on the EVM. And then two, I would say there's an important case for like apps to focus on what they're best at and build an amazing product and leverage the chain for everything else. And so there's of course cases where Stripe and Circle, which have immense distribution, have chosen to go a different path. But I think for an abundance of crypto apps and some of the use cases that I described, it would make a lot of sense to leverage a general purpose chain that like delivers the core thing extremely well, like high performance, but then potentially can hustle on the other things, like bring you distribution, be a net value add because maybe the chain is known to more people than your app is, and therefore like can help the app. But yeah, that is I think crypto people like overthink like the strategy stuff a bit. Like I think there's a lot of very weak execution in the space, and so if you spend like 1 week in the office of one of these teams, you'll just understand that it's actually not as strategy is important, but you can actually out execute someone in a year and a half.
Yeah, so I assume a big part of your role is, supporting early stage consumer teams that are building on Monad. So I'm curious if there are any big lessons that you're kind of taking away from your experience building Llama that you're leaning on when supporting these teams.
Yeah, I think maybe the first one on the consumer side specifically is that it's kind of important to like have an opinionated thesis, and then like almost like you can iterate a lot on the edges, but you actually want like the core thing to really be tested out before you before you truly pivot. I think Dan from Farcast has said something like this too, where if you just go by like pure user numbers, maybe you would pivot like 6 months, like 12 months in. But you actually want to pivot on the edges and like hopefully have conviction in your broad vision. Of course, if you don't, then you leave. But yeah, I think with some of these apps, like maybe I'll take an example like Kizzy. They're building a social media betting app, and it's important that they really stick to the core thesis, which is people will actually want to bet on virality and investing in tweets and all of that. But the way they do that could be extremely variable. Like maybe they want to use the Kizzy app, maybe they discover actually no, like you want to do it natively on Twitter. Maybe it's some combination of those, like how important notifications. You want to like iterate on that every week. But you just won't see the thesis play out in consumer crypto if you don't wait it out. Like Polymarket would have pivoted 1 year in. There's just like all these extreme success stories that need to actually wait it out.
So I think this being in a foundation seed or building a blockchain, we've seen a lot of different ways that these teams have attempted to get things built on their chain. And I think Narwolf had a good tweet the other day here. He says, grants don't work, dev studios don't work, hackathons don't work, incubators can work, but with big limitation. That leaves building the apps yourself as the only real option. Clearly, you guys don't believe that to be true, but I think this new wave of sort of foundation or ecosystem development seems to be much more hands-on and much more curated than maybe if we look at some of the earlier waves of blockchains where hackathons and grants were a bit more of the core function. Can you sort of walk us through how you guys have thought strategically about how you get these killer use cases on your chain?
Yeah, I think one of the core things is like great founders want to be alongside like great people and discuss great ideas and jam and iterate. And so the core thing like that I think we could execute really well on, and I think we have so far, is having our team like itself be like extremely valuable to founders and providing value from day one. And so we have a studio space where people work out of our of this Monad studio and have launched many successful things out of here. We ourselves like get involved with like discussing how you could grow if that is like maybe the bottleneck. On the UX UI side, like we've provided like very detailed like design UX feedback to like a lot of teams, including involving our designers. But I would say it's like in some ways similar to an extremely like high value add VC with maybe the addition but with the additional thing of like the brand, the fact that we can actually leverage the Monad brand to like bring a lot of attention, mindshare, usage to these apps. I think is maybe where I come back to the previous point I said, like getting the basic things right, actually sustainably, consistently for a long time, like yields a lot of rewards. And so you in theory, you could say that, oh, these things can be undifferentiated, but that happens because someone like a year in or 2 years in, like actually stops putting in that level of quality support to teams. And I think if you can build a process where you sustainably do that for 5-10 years, you just build a compounding advantage.
Compounding, baby.
Yeah.
Compounding. What a novel concept in crypto. I thought we only had 2 months to make it, Shreyas. You just have to focus on too much. All right, Shreyas, I got to leave you there, man. Thanks for hopping on and giving us an inside look. I mean, I guess the last question I have to ask is when mainnet, baby? When mainnet?
This year. is
All
what
right.
I can share.
June TM, love it. Thanks for hopping on, brother.
Yeah,
Best of
thanks,
luck. I'll see
guys.
you soon.
See ya.
See you, man.